Welcome back to Jared the Bossman show here with North Florida Ospreys head coach Matt Driscoll. Fresh off a victory against High Point last night, playing Austin Peay this weekend, and Matt figuring here those guys. Coach Driscoll, how are things down there in Duval, man?
Duval! You know what? I was hoping one time they'd let me come out and do that for one of the home football games. You know that Let's Go thing I did? Have you ever seen that Let's Go meme I have?
I have not, man.
What's crazy is I've been doing it my whole life, and I do it every game. And ESPN came in during our championship, and it went crazy. I mean, LeBron used it a couple weeks ago, and it's amazing how many people use it and use it for different things. Like some woman one time used it and was talking about her medicine to help with her stomach pains. And she was like, this is how I feel when waiting for my medicine to kick in. You know, she had to give the big let's go on it. So, it's great down here. It's 55 and sunny, and Florida's neat. It's really a neat place, JR. And I don't think a lot of people understand about Jacksonville because I think it's a place a lot of people pass by because of 95. But number one, we got an NFL team. Number two, we have some of the best beaches you could ever imagine. And think about this. We're 6 hours from Atlanta, 6 from Charlotte, 6 from Miami. So that's our recruiting base. And that's kind of how we go about going after kids and why we've been so successful in Georgia and so successful in Florida. And when you look at Jacksonville, our university is about 13 miles from downtown and 8 miles from the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
And we've got a $5 billion mall right outside our front gate. And our school's only been here since 72, about 17,000 students, about 4,000 by night. And we don't have football, though it is the number one selling T-shirt in the bookstore, still undefeated. So for men's basketball, it's an unbelievable scenario. We seat about 5,800 in our arena. And if you saw the championship game in 15, it was the largest crowd, 6,133 ever, to see an A-Sun championship game. And it was an incredible experience. And it's really a blessing to coach here because there's so much good going on here.
You got that right, Coach. You've been there 11 years coaching the Ospreys, Coach. So what do you feel like has been your greatest accomplishment taking over this program in 2009? I was graduating from college at that point, 2009. Wow. What's been a great accomplishment all those years, Coach?
Thanks for making me old. That's for sure. But you know what's crazy is, JR. When we got the job, first of all, I came after 6 years with Scott Drew, and we took over after the murders at Baylor. And Coach really helped me understand that vision is not staring up the steps, but vision is clearly stepping up the stairs. And the more that you put that in front of kids, and the more in which you accept the elephants in the room, and the more that you talk about expectations and what they mean. When we first got the job on the first Sunday we met in 2009, my wife made a sign, A-Sun Champs, and we practiced cutting down the net to the one shining moment. And that was our vision from the beginning. And though it took some time, like all things do, I say this all the time, JR, if you put it in a microwave and you hit 130, that's the way our society lives nowadays. They want it to be done and right and ding, and I'm ready to go. And in reality, after Thanksgiving just happening, in reality, the best meals come out of the oven. Hey, everybody loves doing it. And now, sometimes, JR, you have to put it in for 20 minutes just to heat it up, and it's great. Sometimes you got to put it in for maybe an hour and a half. Sometimes you got to put it in and flip it, halfway through. But this was like an oven, and we just continually let this thing work and work and work. And what happened was we got Bo Beach and DeMarcus Daniels. And those two guys, Bo Beach said he's going to change. He's from here. His greatest person that he grew up with while coached with his father in high school was the all-time leading scorer that played here. And he told me at that guy's Hall of Fame dinner that he was going to come here and actually change the whole persona. And he was going to make this place what he thought it could possibly be. And that was his desire. And I'm going to tell you something, JR. When he was 18 years old, Bo Beach bought a license plate when he first committed to us, and it said the number 2, NBA.
Wow.
And people made fun of him. People made fun of him. People laughed at him. And you know what happened 4 years later? He won 2 championships, went to the NCAA, went to the NIT, and played for the Brooklyn Nets in the Summer League and made their main roster to try to get on their team, was on their G League team. And eventually was on the Hawks G League team as well, too. Now he plays over in Germany. But my point to you is it's all about how you have your vision and where that lines up with your passion. And then those two things have to have courage. And if you have courage like he did to go out and not just say it, but you know what they say, walk the walk, talk the talk. Because we all know in Proverbs it says, work will lead to profit, but mere talk will lead to poverty. And we don't want to be in poverty. And he realized that. And as he moved through that with that courage, he had the other two principles of those three with vision and passion and courage that I feel are the most critical. Is he had genuine people skills, is he treated people the way he wanted to be treated, and he wasn't going to let anybody not allow him to do what he wanted to do. And then number one, and I think is the number one thing as far as separating yourself as a leader, he trusted us. He trusted our process. He trusted what we could help him do to become as great as he could be. And because of that, more players came. The one thing I learned from Coach Drew early is that players want to play with players. Players want to play with players. You can't be a lone soldier out here on this basketball court because coaches are too smart and they'll take you away.
You got that right.
But when you have multiple guys, and I'm going to give you the best example, Darius Dunn, you probably don't remember the name. He was the all-time leading scorer in Big 12 history at Baylor University. And right now, recently, Buddy Hill just passed him when Buddy was a senior in Oklahoma by 5 points. And Darius Dunn was going to come in as a freshman. We had 3 dudes, a McDonald's All-American, a dude that all 3 guys were 1,000-point scorers. I said, Coach, we can't take this guy because he's not going to play. He's going to be miserable. He's going to transfer. He said, Drisk, and this is when I learned something valuable so early. He said, Drisk, trust me. Get the players and then figure out how to make it work. I was like, Coach, and I tried it. He's like, Drisk, get the players. We'll figure it out. Sure enough, he comes off the bench, averages 14 games as a freshman off the bench, and he leads us to our first ever NCAA tournament after the murders.
Wow.
So I learned a valuable lesson that dudes want to play with dudes. So because of that, right after Bo Beach and DeMarcus Daniel, we started to get some dudes. We got a junior college kid, Jalen Nesbitt, still playing pro. We got a great shooter transfer, Trent Mackey, that has an unbelievable, got his MBA and is married. I actually got to marry him, officiate his wedding. And we got Dallas Moore, who's all-time leading scorer in Division I history in the state of Florida. All-time leading scorer in the history of Division I basketball in the state of Florida. We got Chris Davenport, Romello Banks, Aaron Body. I mean, all those dudes followed Bo. And because of that, they built that bond, they built that chemistry, and it's kind of like what we have going on right now with these 5 seniors. And I'm not promising you, I'm not doing a Joe Namath or whatever. I'm just telling you that's how this has built. This is kind of how this thing has come to fruition. It's been all because of players that really, really trust us as coaches.
You got that right, Coach. Like you said, last year you ended up 3rd place, but having at your level, having an older roster at your level is very key, because being old and staying old at the right time, you can really strike the iron while it's hot and win that A-Sun and get that punch ticket to the big dance, because Liberty was good last year. Lipscomb has a new coach because Casey Alexander's now at Belmont. Amir is now at Kennesaw States, but you all have 5 seniors. You have a well-oiled machine that can know your system. You trust those guys, they trust you. So I feel like you guys have a great opportunity this year. Already being 6-4, beating High Point last night with Austin Peay coming up on Saturday, to be 7-4 as you get towards that January when things kick in A-Sun there.
Well, a couple things. Number one is, Liberty obviously is very, very good with a lot of guys back there. I think they're number 2 right now in the mid-major poll. And Lenny Acuff is a really, really long-time friend of mine who will do a great job at Lipscomb and following up. And like you said, Kennesaw State, Stetson, Jacksonville, North Alabama, Florida Gulf Coast. I mean, you can't forget about them. NJIT, who's really, really good as well too. I mean, all 9 teams in our league are really, really, really good. And what I mean by that is, I mean, look at Fairfield the other day. They're 1-6 going to play Texas A&M, and they beat them. You know, so if you don't come to play in college athletics, you're a fool. I tell it to our guys all the time. You're a fool. Like, if you think people are going to lay down, like, and the other thing too, JR, is because we've created this monster here, everybody wants to beat us. Because everybody thinks you're the darling and you've won championships. And in the last 5 years, number one, we've been in the semifinals every single year. Number two, we won 2 regular season championships. We played in 2 postseason championships, won. And so it isn't like, actually we played, in 2. And so the success has been so great. So now everybody loves to play us. In the old days, it used to be, well, let me mark up 2 wins. Now they love to play us because, you know, we have national recognition now because of what those guys did and what our program did. So when you look at these seniors and this opportunity, you're 100% right. But with that comes an unbelievable responsibility. There's an accountability, and there's all these pressures. And that's why we talk about them. Because when expectations are high, obviously pressures become high. And that means pressures from the outside. So you got social media, you got family, you got friends, you got all these different people saying exactly what you just said because they look at the numbers, they read it, and they realize you went 7-1 your last 8 last year. You only lost was to Liberty in the semifinals. Right now you're 4-1 against mid-majors. Forget about Florida, Iowa, and Creighton. Those are always tough games for schools like us. So when you look at that and you see we're 11-2 in our last 13 against mid-majors, you know, you can see that there's a lot of good and there's a lot that can go well. But the key is, on a daily basis, how are you going to grind? Because you know it's a grind. And how are you going to come out every day and have that passion to know what you said? Because I don't care who you are, JR, at the end of the day, when you're a one-bid league, it comes down to March.
Amen.
It comes down to three games in your tournament. It comes down to 3 games in your tournament. But the beauty of that from our side, and a lot of people that listen to your show probably don't know this, we're one of the few conferences in America where every single postseason tournament game is played at the highest seed, and we reseed.
Wow.
It's played at the highest seed, and we reseed. So if there's an upset, let's say 6 and 7 upset, well, one's not playing 4, one's going to play 7, 4 is going to play 6, because 4 deserves a home game because of what they did during the season. Plus, you always want to reward teams for the regular season. And 1 deserves to play 7 because they need rewarded for what they did during the regular season being a 1. So not only do we have home all the way through, but we reseed going into the semifinals. So there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot. So therefore, JR, here's something we tell our guys as part of our culture. And our guys, they can verbatim this to you. I'll say to them, what game, and I'll stop. And they'll say, keeps you in or keeps you out. What game? Tell me what game. Was it NJIT at home last year where we were up and lost? Was it JU at home last year where only 2 losses? We were 10-2 at home, or 10-3 at home, excuse me. Like, which game doesn't allow you to be in the seed? Because the regular season gives you the seed, which gives you the ability to have home games. Mm-hmm. So you that's why every single game is so critical. And every single game, you got to understand there's a purpose. Now, it might be January 8th, but that game can come back to haunt you at the end of the year.
Amen. You're right. You're so correct. You're so correct. And I think getting young men that age to realize that, Coach, is so crucial. That a game in January can affect you come March. See the bigger picture, not just the small picture of tonight, but if you don't play well today, miss assignment today, it can cost you a home game come March Madness time.
Well, let me give you another one, JR, if you want to get real deep into this.
Let's do it.
So now we have a new rule. We have a new thing that we do in our league. So now when there's a tie, it goes head-to-head. So let's say you split. And then the next thing it goes to is your net ranking. So it used to be in the old days, well, whoever finished below you, how did you do against them, yada, yada, yada. And then eventually it got to a coin toss. Well, now we're going to this net rankings that the NCAA is using for seeding and tournament play. So now the non-conference, we have to talk to our guys now. Now the non-conference even has a bigger meeting because now your net ranking could come into play if there's a tie on February 28th when the season's over. How crazy is that?
Very crazy. So that means every possession counts. Literally now, every possession counts.
It's a great poem. It's a great poem. If you ever haven't read it, you should read it. It's a great poem. And basically, the poem's called "It's Only One Possession." And basically, the whole poem goes through. It's the players telling the coach, "Relax, chill out, relax. It was only one block out. It was only one missed free throw. It was only this. It was only that. Chill out, coach. Relax. Chill out. Chill out." And then at the end of the poem, they lose by one. And then you go back and you say to yourself, okay, which possession? So what are there probably? I think, I'm not positive, but I think there's 5 to 7 games every single year that determine your seeding. I'm very confident in that. There's probably 5 to 7 possessions every game that are crucial and critical to where you are in the game. And when you look at that and when you think about that, it just shows you how locked in you have to be and how these teams with consistency. Like if you took our record and you put us in a Power 5 league, and instead of us having to get bought 6 or 7 times a year, we're buying 6 or 7, and we're finishing 9-7, 10-6, and we're going to the semifinals. We'd be an NCAA tournament team every year.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So, what people don't realize is, that kind of flips it to the other side. And, so the thing that young people have to understand is, just like life, things matter. And though you don't quite see it yet, Matthew West has a great song called "The Motions," and basically it's about going through the motions. And when the day's done, you don't want to live your life with regrets. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing we try to tell our guys all the time. Like you don't want to live life with regrets. Here's what we tell our guys: if we do what we do and we be who we are, and they score and they are better than us and they win, then God bless them. They've earned it. But if we allow them, because of our errors and mistakes and our inability to stay focused in going back to the poem, well, it's only one possession, coach, then you're going to go back and look at your life and you're going to be like, man, if only. And you know what they say, JR, if ifs, ands, and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
You got that right. I remember my dad telling me that too. My dad told me as well. I remember that.
Hey, old sayings are the best because if we're still around, they must be pretty good.
And my dad also told me, Coach, this: make every move with a purpose. Don't take any empty steps, son. So he's telling me that. So I try not to take any empty steps daily. I try not to.
That's a good advice.
So yes, indeed. And getting guys that age to realize that 18 and 22 years old is kind of difficult. But if they buy into it, it'll help them not only on the court, but in life as well, Coach.
And JR, the thing that I love about what you just said is because of what's happened before and because of the championships that these guys, Wajid and Garrett, 2 of our seniors, played for a championship against Gulf Coast at Gulf Coast their freshman year. So they're the only guys left on the team that had a taste of it. But being that we've had success and we've had these different things occur, they do see it differently. than the Bo Beaches and the Dallases and them. They had to make it happen. They're the ones that kind of turned the corner and became that group that got us moving forward. But, you know, sustainability is very difficult, especially in college athletics. And you know, good enough. We have a guy named John Haidt. He's one of our biggest money. He's a great booster, but he's a much better friend. And he's so intelligent and so smart. And he's 83 and he's beaten cancer 4 times. Wow. And John tells the guys this: if you realize daily that good enough isn't good enough, then you'll always have a purpose to improve and get better. If you realize that good enough isn't good enough. So I thought that was pretty good advice. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, indeed. And, Coach, I got a couple more here for you, Coach. Can you explain to our listening audience about the buy games? Because I think our listeners don't quite understand this, that at your level and age son,
sure,
that you have to be bought to raise money for the university. It's not like the non-conference schedule is really a fundraiser for the university to a degree, because you have to raise a certain amount of money to make sure the school can fund other athletic programs. So explain to my listeners' audience here about those buy games, how at your level you have to be bought in so you don't have your choices in some games you play because you need the money for the school.
So basically every school is different, even in our league. So it's not like it's a league policy where you're only allowed to play so many of them, because every school is different. Some schools actually, believe it or not, in our league charter planes to games. So every school is different, and everybody has a different mission, and everybody has a different circumstance, and we don't have football. So therefore, there's not a large generating football situation here as well, too. So because we're men's basketball, we have the greatest ability, more than women's basketball, any other sport. Men's basketball can generate really up to $1 million if you wanted to. Now, some of the SWAC schools, some of the MEAC schools, they actually sometimes bring in $1 million in buy games, and we were at 500,000 for my first 10 years. This year it got cut back to 400,000, but we brought in over 500,000 because we had to help pay for some other things as well too. So, and that money does not go to our program. The money goes to the general fund. And so it just goes in to help. It helps our program, obviously, because we're part of the general fund, but it helps with academia. It helps with summer school. It helps with, beach volleyball. It helps with swimming. It helps with everybody, because it's a large sum of money, because you only get so much money from the student fee and from season tickets, which we do well with season ticket money as well, too. Which is another revenue generator, and of course the NCAA tournament. And because men's basketball is March Madness, I say this all the time, JR. Like people, like so let me finish your question. So when you have that money coming in, the reason why we play these games is twofold. Number one, we get anywhere from $90,000 to $100,000, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but somewhere in that area. And you go to these universities, and why do they do it? Well, they do it to build wins. So the Power Fives do it to build wins, and they build wins up because they know in their league they're probably only going to be 500, or maybe one game above, or 2 games above. So they build all these wins in so they can have a winning record at the end of the year, hopefully close to 20 wins. Hopefully they play good enough teams like us, because we're talented, we're good, so we help their net score. So now their net ranking helps because they're playing good teams as well too. Now they get the wins, they get our net score, and then it helps them and put themselves in position. So the teams are buying wins. Now, like happened at Purdue a couple years ago, we beat Purdue. Happened to Illinois a couple years ago, we beat Illinois. We had 2 great games against Iowa and Creighton that paid us to come play them. Overtime game at Kansas State. We've been in single digits. We lost by 5 to Florida, or 7 to Florida one year. Florida State was a 7-point game one year. So you're in games as well too. But sometimes you get beat by 40. I tell you this: a couple years ago, we played Michigan State on a Friday night, and they were picked to be in the Final Four. We lost by 35. The next night on Saturday, we drive down and play Michigan, the same Michigan team that went to the Final Four that year. This was 3 years ago. And we're tied with 8 minutes to go.
Wow.
So, and well, what even gets better is we take a plane ride on Sunday, and on Monday, we play VCU, who went to the NCAA tournament. So we play 3 games in 4 days against Michigan State, Michigan, and VCU. And what's crazy is we get to come home on Tuesday, prepare on Wednesday, and we have to go play at Florida and lose by 40 on Thursday. But, you know, it is what it is, and it's just part of what you do. And so you got to manage that too. You really have to manage that with the guy's mind. You got to manage, like, the guys love it because they're playing in all these places against all these players, against all these names. And, like, we're playing at Syracuse this year, and, you know, so you get to play in the Dome and yada, yada, yada. But as a coach, just like them, you're trying to win it. So you're preparing the same, you're coaching them the same, so it's really a juggling act how you kind of go about this particular part of our profession and what we have to do at our university. And again, like I said, Coach has knocked it down $100,000, and hopefully it continues to get knocked down and we don't have to play as many because, like I said, you know, we're 11-2 in our last 13 mid-major games. I think we have a 65% winning rate against mid-majors in the last 5 years, or 68%, something like that. So, you know, we've had success when we got to play against teams like us. But, again, when the day's done, at the end, you know, 3 games in March is what this one-bid league, you know, boils down to.
That's what I got for you, Coach. This is a softball question for you. In Duval.
Softball?
Softball question in Duval for my listening audience. What is some of the best places to eat in Duval County?
Duval. Now, if you want seafood, you want to go to Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor has the best seafood. That's where you want to go for seafood. If you want Tex-Mex, you want to go to Taco Lou's. Taco Lou's is really, really good Tex-Mex, really good Tex. If you want, what else do you want? Tell me what else you want. You want
barbecue, ribs, hot chicken.
Okay. Hold on. You want pizza? You got to go to a place down on 13th North called Biggie's, Biggies. And when you walk in, it's a Brooklyn pizza joint right next to a laundromat, and it's got a big old picture of Biggie Smalls on the wall.
Wow.
And you got to go to Biggie's. Yeah. And across the street is a new place called Cookies and Cream. It has great ice cream sandwiches. But if you want barbecue, in my opinion, you need to go to Four Rivers. And you talk about a great story. Here's a guy that was like bottom of his class. He actually spoke at my son's graduation because my son graduated from the same high school as he did. And he was making millions of dollars in the medical industry. And somebody in their neighborhood had cancer. I know you can relate to that. Somebody in their neighborhood had cancer. So they decided to do a fundraiser for him. And they decided to do it at his house.
Wow.
And he always loved the barbecue. So he did all the barbecuing that day. They raised all this money, and somebody come up to him and said, "You know, you should open a restaurant." And that's what started it. And he's got like 5 or 6 of them in Florida. And it's called Four Rivers, and it's really, really good. Bono's is really, really, really good barbecue in town. There's about 17 of them. It's another homegrown barbecue place in town. So there's another place. They got some really, really good smoked wings. I mean, really, really, really good smoked wings over right. It's called Monroe's.
Wow.
It's really good. A lot of people like Gilbert's. Gilbert's is another famous barbecue joint. So, but seafood, and then here, my favorite food is breakfast.
Hey.
So I love what they call greasy spoons. I love those mom and pop joints. And there's a great place here called Beach Hut Cafe. Beach Hut Cafe. It's amazing. It's an amazing joint. So you want to say you come down to Duval. You tell me what you want, and I'll get you taken care of.
Coach, I'm there, man. And Coach, this has been amazing to talk to you, man. You've been a great. This has been great talk to you today. I hope to see you either at Kennesaw or at Lipscomb or at the Final Four. We got to get every catch up, Coach. I'll definitely got to get you one
That
of those
sounds
places,
great.
man.
Well, I tell you this, we're going to do it. God's going to make it happen, and we're going to figure out how to do it. And if you ever come down here, you always got a place to stay, and I'll make sure you get to the right place to eat too.
Hey, Coach, I'm gonna be down there real soon, man. I'm gonna talk to the girlfriends. Let's go to Jacksonville or see somebody. Let's go down there. So I'm gonna talk to her about this. We're going down there to see you, man.
I got plenty of room, and by the way, I literally live. I don't golf, but I'm pretty sure I am a 9 iron away from the Atlantic Ocean.
Say, beat.
I don't golf, but I'm pretty sure I'm a 9 iron. I'm a block and a half away from the water. So come on.
This is my friend, Coach. Hey, Coach, thank you so much for your time today. Have a great day. We'll talk real soon, Coach.
Grab a hold of big breakfast flavor at Hardee's. Try 2 breakfast sliders for just $2.99. Get Applewood smoked bacon or freshly grilled sausage with fluffy eggs and golden melty cheese, all on a toasty little bun. Good morning, start at Hardee's. Available now for a limited time at participating restaurants. Tax not included.
Folks, back in the Gerald the Bossman show. We're here with Andrew Marius, author of The Games of Deception and Strongest Side out of Vanderbilt, a buddy of mine. Andrew, man, good to talk to you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to you. I love to hear your voice, man. It's awesome to be on with you.
Hey, man, thank you so much for that, Andrew, man. First of all, I got to ask you, man, how's your family? How's life doing? How's your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was great. Thanks for asking. I've got 2 great little kids, 3rd grade and kindergarten. They're just into sports like I am. My son's playing basketball. He's loving it. My daughter loves to be the commentator. You'll probably see her on ESPN someday. And then they both had a piano recital on Sunday, and they did great. So we're all doing great. How was your Thanksgiving?
Man, it was good, man. I had spent time with the family down here in Georgia, man. Ate real good. Had a few days off from the Hawks, man. So Life's good, man.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, Andrew, I want to ask you, man, Games of Deception, it's a great book about the Nazi Olympics and the first Olympic basketball team and how basketball came about. But tell me, what triggered you to write this book? What events or story you read that triggered you to write this great book about the 36 Olympics out there in Germany?
Yeah, so I was actually out in Lawrence, Kansas a couple years ago to speak about my last book, which was Strong Inside. It was a biography of Perry Wallace, who was the first African-American basketball player in the SEC. And while I was at University of Kansas, just being a big college basketball fan, I really wanted to see Allen Fieldhouse. And so I took a tour over there, and in the Fieldhouse, they have James Naismith's original rules of basketball back from 1891 when he invented the sport under glass, in a nice display. And next to it, they had a picture of Naismith with a Japanese basketball player from the 1930s. And the guy showing me around said, "Did you realize that the inventor of basketball was able to see his invention make its Olympic debut?" And I didn't know that. And I asked him, "Well, which Olympics was that?" And when he said that it was the 1936 Olympics in Nazi Germany, I thought right then and there, this could be my next book. A story about the invention of the game and its debut in the Olympics in the context of the Nazi Olympics. Like, that would just make an interesting story that I don't think most sports fans are aware of. And so that was the inspiration for this book.
Yeah, and for me, I had no idea that Dr. Naismith got to see his invention in the Olympic Games in '36 as well, because I was like, wow. I know that he invented the game in the late 1890s, 1891 to be exact, but I know he lived to see it actually make it to the Olympic Games. And Andrew, what's so great about your writing is that you can intertwine sports and politics, because I was just honest about it. Sports and politics go hand in hand. It goes hand in hand no matter where we look at it. And I think it's brought us closer together. It's different nationalities, different races. It brings us all together as one. Sports does typically. So you have the ability to write about that and bring it together for us to understand it in the simplest form. It's a very great talent that you have.
Well, thank you. And I agree. I think sports and politics have always been intertwined. And when people say they should be kept separate, they're not really acknowledging reality, and there's no greater example of the connections between sports and politics than the Olympics, which are completely political in terms of, athletes competing as countries and countries bidding on hosting the Olympics. And the fact that for so many years, African Americans weren't allowed to compete in certain sports in the Olympics, or there weren't women's sports in the Olympics. Those are all political decisions that have been made, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. So this first U.S. Olympic basketball team didn't have any black players on it. And I write about that in the book. It wasn't because there weren't African American basketball players at the time, because they weren't allowed to try out for the team. There was one Jewish player on the Olympic team, and he had a political decision to make about whether he was going to participate in Olympics in Nazi Germany, and he decided to do it. Much like Jesse Owens had a decision to make, and he decided to go to Berlin also. In both cases, they felt like the best thing that they could do, knowing what they did at the time, was to go to Germany, compete well, win a gold medal, and that would be the best way to refute Adolf Hitler. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, I write a lot about the connections between sports and politics in this book. I did in Strong Inside also, the politics that kept African-American players out of the SEC for so many decades, and Perry Wallace coming into the league. And I think that's what makes these books interesting, is to put them into the context of the times in which these stories existed. And they're not just stories about how many points somebody scored in a basketball game or whether their team won or lost, but the other issues that are sort of swirling around during those times.
I can speak to my experience, Andrew. For me, I didn't get introduced to white kids until I got to play sports, to be honest with you, growing up where I grew up at. So for me, I didn't get to meet white kids until I played basketball, football, and baseball as a child. So for me, sports really made me a better person because I always looked around black people until I got to play sports. So it's like I didn't know about how white people are, what they believe in, or who they are as people, because I just saw them out, but I never knew who they were. So for me, sports politics really is good for me, because I said for me playing ball, I would have met white people. I would know how to interact with white people or a Spanish person. So I feel like it's like you see your books are so about life, man, because it's true. It sports brings us all together as one.
Well, I think that that's a great example of one of the positive sides of sports, and let's say we want to talk about Jackie Robinson. So in baseball, it was a political decision to keep African-American players out of baseball. But then when Jackie Robinson came in the late 1940s, that was, years before Rosa Parks. That was years before Martin Luther King, right? And so in some ways, sports was a catalyst in the civil rights movement. And so there are plenty of examples of sports playing a positive role in social changes in this country. But, one thing I write about in the book is that's not guaranteed. I mean, here you had Adolf Hitler using sports as a propaganda piece to try to fool the rest of the world into thinking everything was just fine in Nazi Germany. And so I found a quote from a woman who's the director of the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and she said, sports is not inherently positive. It's not inherently negative either. It's neutral. And it depends on the decisions that people are making who are involved, whether it has a positive impact on the world or a negative impact on the world. And so I address that issue in my book.
And you're right about it, Andrew. You're so right about that, because on a team, you decide to be a team or you decide to be an individual. And I feel like in all my sporting events as a child growing up in college as well, that, hey, whether it was black, white, Hispanic, European, Australian, whatever, we had a goal to win. We came together as one for that common goal to win. We have our differences, but guess what? We can come together for this one task to get the job done and win a game. So I feel like that, like you said, it's very neutral, but it depends on the people involved, whether it make it positive or negative there as well, as she said in that quote.
I agree, and I think that's the beautiful thing about sports is when you do see people who come from different backgrounds or just different types of people come together to achieve one goal. And that's what fans love to see, and they take that as an example, hopefully, of what they can apply to the rest of their life. And I think that is an example of the very best side of sports. I interviewed Bill Curry, down there in Atlanta, and he talked about getting players on his football team that came from different backgrounds to realize that their sweat all smelled the same, and that deep down that they were all equal and they were the same. And when he saw that sort of light bulb go on his teams, he was really proud to see that.
Exactly. I feel like that's so great, because I feel like for us all in sports who played it and who was lovers around it, you see how color does not matter once you play a sport. It's about the team, about that jersey you're wearing. I've never thought about race when I'm playing a game of basketball or baseball or football. It's always about the team. And I feel like that has helped us so much. It's us guys in sports, at least. Now, other parts of our country needs to get them to come together as well. But in the sports realm, we had it figured out pretty good in that regard there.
Yeah, I think so. You hear that in sports. You hear that from people who have been in the military. They don't care. That person next to them, their lives depend on them. So it doesn't matter to them whether they're white or black or Hispanic or whatever. They're all achieving a goal together. On the other hand, I think it's important that people do realize the differences. And the example with Perry Wallace as the first black basketball player in the SEC, his teammates didn't always acknowledge that things were different for Perry. They go down. Well, first of all, his freshman year, Ole Miss canceled both of its games against Vanderbilt because there was a black player on the team. And so his teammates, they needed to take stock of why was this game canceled and recognize that there was racism being directed at one of their teammates. His sophomore year, when they do go down to play against Ole Miss, and Perry's the one who's being hit in the face and fans are cheering that he's bleeding, and his teammates didn't necessarily have the empathy that Perry would have expected or wanted at that time for them to understand that one of their teammates was being treated drastically differently because who he was. And so for them to say, well, we're all the same, didn't really acknowledge reality in that situation. Maybe during the game, I'm going to pass the ball to this guy and he's going to pass it to me and we're all going to try to achieve a victory together because we're all equal on the basketball court. But at the same time, to recognize in a larger context that Perry was enduring a different reality than they would have been a helpful thing for Perry to survive those situations.
You got that right, Andrew. And also, I want to ask you this, man. What are some other interesting backstories that you got from compiling information for this book? Because I feel like with the Nazi Germany aspect of it and the Nazi Olympics and the James Naismith background, you got a lot of interesting backstories you got about these people. So if you could share a couple of nuggets that you came for listeners, that I can kind of get them pique their interest even more about this book here.
Yeah, so from a basketball perspective, one of the interesting things was they had to play the tournament in the Olympics outside. There wasn't a basketball arena or a gym. They turned some old clay tennis courts into the basketball court, and the entire tournament was played outside, which works just fine for the first couple rounds. But heading into the medal rounds, there was a rainstorm for 24 hours leading up to the gold medal game. And so by the time they took the court for the gold medal game, which was the U.S. versus Canada, the clay tennis courts had turned into a big mud pit. And so the players literally couldn't dribble the basketball. It just gets stuck in the mud. The ball itself got really waterlogged. And so even for the standards of that time, it was a really bad, low-scoring game. United States won 19-8. Most of the second half was just sort of a big game of keep away. The players just wanted to get the game over with. They were tired of playing in the rain and the mud. And so thought that was interesting. One of the players on the U.S. team, a guy named Joe Fortenberry, is considered the first player ever to dunk the basketball in a game. He dunked at Madison Square Garden, and the New York Times reporter, this was in the qualifying tournament leading up to the Olympics, reporter described this unusual shooting motion as looking like a customer at a coffee shop dunking their donut in coffee. And that's where the term dunk came from, from this line in the newspaper article. I thought it was interesting the way the United States team was created. They didn't have players try out as individuals. They played a tournament, and the idea was whichever two teams advanced to the championship game of this tournament would be combined. Their rosters would be combined to become the U.S. Olympic team. And so the two teams that met in the championship, one was from an oil refinery. They played for a company team sponsored by an oil refinery in the middle of Kansas, in McPherson, Kansas. And the other team came from Universal Pictures in Hollywood. And all these guys worked on movie studios, sets, helping create movies in the 1930s. And their basketball team, it was really good. They had players mostly who had played at UCLA in college. And the guy that started the team at the movie studio, his name was Jack Pierce, who was the head makeup artist. And he created the look of Frankenstein in the Frankenstein movies. And he created the look of Hunchback of Notre Dame. But he also created a basketball team. And so I thought those were really sort of interesting tidbits about the team and the tournament that they played.
Man, it's gonna be a great book for you to read, listeners. I'm telling you, Andrew does a great job. He does a great job breaking it down for you guys. So I know you're going to the event right now. So do you have any other events like around Atlanta, the South here that we can come and see you at a bookstore here and get to hear you firsthand talk about this book? Because I hear the passion in your voice about it, man. You did a great job. These stories really stuck with you, man. So where is us going to be at the promoting this book here?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. Right now, I don't have any events scheduled in Atlanta. I'd love to. One thing I do is I visit a lot of middle schools and high schools talking about my books. And so if anybody listening has a kid in middle school and wants me to come visit their kid's school, I'd love to do it. You can find me on Twitter at TrueBlue24 without the E's, TRUBLU24. And just, message me there. My DMs are open, and we can set it up. I'll come to Atlanta. I love to do it. And people can find my books at bookstores or on Amazon. There's an audio book, too, for people who like to listen to those. So I really appreciate this opportunity, JR, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time you're up in Nashville.
Hey, man, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'll be up there a little bit more with the season getting ready. Season starting up there for Randy. Because I know I got to check out my man Stack. That's my guy, he's a former Hawk. So I always got my man back. He's a former Hawk. And Malcolm's an Atlanta guy as well. So the two guys I know very well. So I got to go out there and see you guys and anchor down with you brothers up there at Vanderbilt, man. I love you guys up there.
All right, we're looking forward to it. It's always fun to see you, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Andrew. Have a great day, buddy.
All right, you too. Take care.
All right, it's Andrew Marion is here on the Bossman Show.
Sally Beauty's new all-in-one hair color kits make it easy to color your hair at home. Get everything you need to color for beautifully radiant results. Loved by professionals, open to everyone. Sally Beauty.
All right, folks, back in the Gerald the Boss Man Show. As you know, a friend of the show, a good buddy of mine personally, my man Donnie Tyndall, coach of the Grand Rapids Drive. Coach, how's life treating you in that G League coaching you're doing a great job, man. I see you on the sidelines, very energetic as usual.
Well, I tell you what, I'm not probably quite as energetic as I was in college. That's not the NBA style, as they say, JR, but I'm enjoying it, man. We had a tough one last night on the road against Utah Jazz's team in Salt Lake City, and they're a good team. They're like 6 or 7-2, and we lost a close one, so that was a little disappointing. But off to an 8-4 start. Got a good group of guys that are working hard, and I'm just enjoying being a head coach and trying to grow and develop these guys and help them reach their goals.
You kind of led me to my first question, Coach. Is like I feel like the feeling of being a head coach again for you is just been so refreshing for you. Because I know you want to be a head coach so bad, and I feel like you're getting ready to coach young men that are not 18 to 22-year-olds like you used to, but they're 22, 23, and 24 years old. You help them, like you said, move and achieve their dreams of being an NBA player or playing for some team, because the eye in the sky does not lie.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's hard when you kind of have to come to grips with the fact that your sole evaluation isn't going to be on wins and losses, and in college, other than graduating your players, the thing you're based on is if you win or if you lose. And here it's really and truly about developing the guys, in particular when they Sensei Ku down with us. He's a guy that is of the utmost importance, and we've got to spend extra time in the film room with him and doing all the things that need to take place for him to grow and blossom as a young 18-year-old guy. And then we've got a couple two-way guys, one that played at Tennessee and Jordan Bone, and another kid, Lewis King, that played at Oregon, that are both really talented young players. Lewis left a couple years early. Jordan left a year early. So still really young guys trying to find their way. And so the development of these guys, those three in particular, are what we're going to be judged on. So getting these guys reps in practice, studying in the film room, making sure they carry themselves as pros, all those habits that they're trying to build to get them to someday be a full-time NBA roster guy. And that's tough because we all know how challenging and competitive the pro basketball world is.
And Jordan Bone made a big three for the night at home. That play drill for him, that three he made. It's a tough game for you guys. You were down a lot that game. He brought you out back. You all won overtime, and Jordan had a great game that night for you.
He did. I think he had 34 that night and made the three to send it into overtime. And Jordan's an explosive athlete. He's very, very fast. He has NBA quickness and NBA speed. The thing is, he's still growing and developing as a true point guard and learning the pick and roll coverage both offensively and defensively, and learning to see those weak side kickouts when you play off pick and rolls. All those things that to the casual basketball fan kind of go unnoticed, but they're so imperative in a point guard's play of being able to make those reads. And so he's making nice progress. Again, he's a great athlete. He's a really, really good young guy that is attentive. He's a guy that puts in extra time in the film work. When you coach him, he's looking at you. He's nodding his head. He's with you. And usually in my experience, when you're coaching guys and they're receptive like that, it really expedites the process in regard to them getting better and improving.
And, Coach, I know you are a great teacher, so I know having these young men on your roster, yes, if you feel good if you're able to get out there and actually still teach a little bit. No, you only teach much on the NBA level, but in the G League level, you can really teach these young men because, like you said, you're trying to develop their games because you're judged on development, not so much wins, but development. So you have to be able to teach with your staff, have some, can't give you that feeling like, oh, my God, this is what I used to do anyway, teaching these young men how to play the game the right way.
Well, it is, and obviously the NBA just continues to get younger and younger, and all the one and done guys, and now the old rules going back where you can go out of high school in another year or two. So, in reality, probably half my team are guys that should still be in college. And when you have Sekou with us, Bossman, he's 18 years old, so it's like coaching a young Kenneth Farid all over again. So from that standpoint, I think it's a perfect fit for me at this level in regard to being demanding, being a teacher, holding guys accountable, but understanding how the thought process of a young person is. Maybe sometimes their mind's on video games instead of the game plan, and being able to explain that to a young 18, 19, 20-year-old guy about, look, you're now a pro. You've got to put that stuff aside for 2 or 3 hours a day and punch the clock. This is your job. And again, the younger these guys are, they're not always as keen as you think they would be of understanding that this really is a job now.
You got that right, because you're getting a paycheck now. It's no more stipends. It's no more that school gets you your lunch or food. This is your gig. You're making a paycheck that you're paying to have a W-2 now. So, like you said, get them to understand this is actually work, not play.
That's right. And I think, that's the biggest thing when you talk to these young guys and you say, look, I'm trying to push you. I'm trying to get you better. I'm trying to get you to do things you never thought you could do, because this is your livelihood. And if you don't make this progress and you don't take these steps to be a pro both on and off the floor and develop the correct habits in the film room, etc., in a year or two, there's going to be the next young 18, 19-year-old coming by, and these NBA franchises will just move on to the next hottest thing. And so you have a small window of opportunity to really cash in and take advantage. And every day is pivotal. Every day is important. Every game is important. The Pistons personnel, these NBA general managers, they are watching these G League games on a daily basis and writing reports. And I tell the guys, look, you're being evaluated every single night, whether the Piston guys are there or not. It might be, for example, last night the Utah Jazz people, and then tomorrow we play the Lakers team, and the LA Lakers GM could be there. So you have an opportunity to make an impression in a positive way on these people. But on the flip side, if you don't get your rest, you don't eat right, you don't prepare yourself to play, all of a sudden you can be making a negative impression for yourself too. So it's a job, and I do my best to make them, or at least help them to understand that.
And, Coach, I feel like the fact that you have a brand name, you coach in college basketball, these guys know who you are. It helps them buy into you even more. I feel like your team really, I watch you on the G League app here, and I see you coaching your guys. They look at you in the eye, little up there, locked in what you're talking about. I feel like they really bought into you and who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, they do, and I think some of these guys, knew who I was and where I coached at the college level coming in, and obviously some had no idea. But the bottom line is to have a good relationship with your players at this level, they have to know you can get them better. And at the end of the day, that's all they really care about, because if you can get them better, then they have a chance to advance their career and make more money. And that's what it's all about. Whether we want to admit that or accept that, that's irrelevant. The bottom line is that is the business. And so if these guys know you care about them and you're pushing them, and the bottom line is in doing that, you're making them better, they're with it. They're with it. And if they don't think you know what you're talking about, or they don't think you can make them better, then that's probably when they aren't looking at you when you talk, or they do block you out or push you away. So we've got a great group of guys. And, I make mistakes like every other guy, and I tell them that. When I screw something up, I'm the first guy to say, hey, that's on me. And I think that's important, too, that they know you're not, up on some stair step speaking down to them. You're with them. You're in this to grow and get better just like they are, and you're going to do everything you can to help them reach their goals and dreams, and that's what they want. They just want to get better and improve, and I think our players know I'm pushing them in that direction.
And, Coach, the buy-in factor for is them buying into our roles. All these guys want to play to make their good impression. So getting guys to buy into the roles, come off the bench right now, might not be playing as much. Or when Sekou comes down there and plays with you guys, or need to get Jordan Bone or Lewis King some more run here. So getting guys to buy in and know what the setup is, how's that process been? I saw they asked for right now. The guys are in sync right now, but how's trying to get them guys to understand their roles? They want to play. Say, hey, can make this their livelihood and make even more money going forward.
Well, that's absolutely positively the hardest part of the job. We just got to the hotel here in L.A. about an hour ago. I've already had 2 meetings with a couple guys individually and talked to them about last night and a couple of things that didn't necessarily go their way and how they need to handle it in a professional manner. Because the bottom line is we don't have the most talented team in the G League, but we've got a nice talented roster, and we're pretty even basically from about 3 through 12. And so those guys that are 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe not playing as much, could probably do the same things or similar things to the guys that are 3, 4, 5, and 6 playing more minutes than them. So they're all competitive guys. If they weren't, they wouldn't be at this level. But what I try to explain to them is some nights it's going to be your night and some nights it isn't. Sometimes that's predicated on matchups. Sometimes that's predicated on, again, who maybe is sent from the Pistons here, et cetera. And we try to address that all on the front end before we sign a guy, before we trade a guy. That way we can come back and reference it like in these meetings today and say, okay, look, when I talked to you in July and we were talking about making this trade, I told you exactly what time it was. And nothing's changed. You can't flip on it now and all of a sudden be disappointed and have bad body language, et cetera, because I told you this exact situation could be there in July when you made the decision to come to Grand Rapids. So those are the things that just constantly have to be addressed. One side of me says, hey, you want guys that want to hoop. You want guys out there that want to compete and play more minutes and get more opportunities, and they think they can help you win. So I love that part of it. But the flip side of it is, if it doesn't go your way, a lot of what these guys are being judged on is their off-court stuff or how they handle adversity. Because most of them, if they ever get a call-up Bossman, they're not going to be a starting guy. They're not going to be a guy that leads the team in shot attempts. They're not going to be a guy that plays 36 minutes. So they want to know if they bring a guy up, can he handle being the 12th, 13th, 14th man? Will he still be on time? When he doesn't get in the game, is he going to handle himself with good body language and be a good teammate? So those are just things you got to constantly talk to these young guys about. And, the sad thing is some of them don't get it. Some of them don't get it, and they end up not doing what they wish they could do. And some of them get it and end up being great teammates and going on and having ultra successful careers. So it's my job just to kind of keep hammering that home to them.
Well, Coach, do you feel like it's an advantage for you that a lot of the G League teams are not having any tape on you as a G League coach? Because all I know about you is from college. They don't know about you as a G League head coach. I feel like right now, the first time through, you got a little advantage here. They don't have a lot of tape on you so far.
Well, I think the biggest thing is in college, as a head coach, and if you're having success, which we were fortunate enough to have that, it can kind of become my way or the highway. Look, you're going to buy into your role. This is how we're going to play. This is what you're going to do. and those kids really have no option. Whereas at this level, these guys have agents. They're in their ear. They're talking to them, telling what they need to do, or what they ought to do to get the next opportunity. And so it can't just be a head coach where you got an iron fist and you're never bending at all. Now, you're not going to bend in some of your non-negotiables, but in regard to understanding where a player is coming from, or understanding that, this can't be and won't be a my way or the highway type deal. These guys are pros, and, they're each and own kind of CEO of their company. They have their brand, they have who they are, they have their representation, they have where they're trying to go. And so you kind of have to handle each guy fairly, but maybe a little differently, and be able to talk to him man to man and help him to understand some of these things rather than just yell at him or beat it into him, if you will, like you would at the college level.
Well, Coach, I think I could told you all before on there and off there, but I think you're going to be an NBA assistant coach before you know it, because the job you're doing, I watch all your games on the G League out there. I see what you're doing. They got to see what I see. They see got a man who's in control, knows what you got going on out there, and got guys playing hard for you, which is a great thing for a player development guy like yourself. So I think you're on the right track, Coach. I'm glad you stuck with it, man, and you're doing big things with Grand Rapids. I can't wait to see you Saturday when you get in town to play College Park on Sunday.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, man. I'm excited and very humbled and blessed. I know I'm blessed for the opportunity I have. And our rule, boss, man. You come to GR, dinner's on me. But when I come to the ATL, dinner's on you, buddy.
Oh, I got you, brother. I got you. Going to have a good time, man, and catch up and have some good laughs, man.
That sounds great. I really look forward to it. And thanks for having me on.
Good luck against South Bay tomorrow, man.
All right. Thanks again, JR. Bye-bye.
All right, bye now. Coach Tyndall on the Bossman Show.